Hi, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to our call this morning about our amazing trip to France, to Rhone and Provence. I'm Janie Brookswake, and I am hosting the trip. I've done maybe 5 trips with the same company, and they are absolutely like the best trips, definitely memories of a lifetime. Really, really excellence in terms of the wineries we get to visit, the food we get to have, our accommodations, the organization. It is really easy once you've signed up for the trip just to get to go. We've created so many friends and memories that we've had these trips sell out from former travelers. So this is a very cool opportunity that we have about 8 spots left for our trip, and hope that you all are going to join us. I have a couple of people I want to introduce you to. First off is Elisa, who I've personally traveled with a couple of times. She is with Xperi, who kind of is the in-between, both working with us at the winery as well as working with the tour operators on the ground for their different trips. And they are the ones really behind the quality and the exceptional service and just a lot of fun that we've had together. So welcome, Elisa.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone.
And then I want to introduce Justina, who is going to be our boots on the ground and leader for this trip to Provence and Rhone. And she's going to go through the itinerary and some other specifics with us, as well as answer any questions. So Justina, it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, everyone. Okay, we've got a little presentation for you today, so we can kind of run through the itinerary of the trip and talk a little bit in more details about what's going to happen on this program. Okay, is it all good? Everyone can see? Perfect. Okay, so we'll start in Lyon. Lyon is the third largest city in France. It's got a lot of history, mainly due to its location. So it's kind of on the east, in the middle of the eastern part of France. So very strategic location. It has been there for a very long time. We know there were settlements even before the Roman Empire, but it kind of became a big strategic place during the Roman time. Actually, you do have some remains that are now classified as historical monuments in Lyon of a grand theatre, Roman theatre that can be visited. Some beautiful part of Lyon as well is the basilica, as you can see on the photo on the little slides. It's dedicated to the Virgin Mary. It's on top of the Fourvière Hill, and it really dominates the city of Lyon. It's got an incredible view from it. Actually, the very first slide that we've got, the one just before this one, Elisa, if you want to go back to it. Yes, that one. That is a view from the basilica. So this is Lyon, and you can see all of it from the top of the hill. It's got a very impressive architecture as well. Lots of representation allegories on the outside of the building. It's richly decorated inside as well. And all of this is part of the what we call the Vieux Lyon, which is the old Lyon, and part of what you get to see in Lyon. Another little very nice thing about Lyon is the traboules. They are like little secret passageways that are kind of shortcuts to go from one street to another, and they kind of inside building. They go through inside courtyards, and there's about 80 open to the public still. Out of there's probably about 500 really in Lyon. But they're really cool. You go through, they were used by people to transport water back in the day. So to go kind of get the water at the river and then go back up quickly to take the water back home. It was used also by the silk workers. Lyon was a big hub for the silk trade. And so it was an easy way to kind of get the merchandise down the river, and obviously to then get transported and sold in different part of the world. And Lyon is also the gastronomic capital of France. There are more restaurants per head in Lyon than in any other place actually in France. And the traditional restaurant is called a bouchon. It's been around since the 16th, 17th century, and it's really warm, home-cooked, friendly meals, you know, hearty dishes. And it became famous through history because it was run by women. So we call them les mères lyonnaises, the mother of Lyon, that used to feed the workers of the city. So they kind of, you know, an early example of female entrepreneur, I guess, who were feeding the people in the city. And it kind of stayed. Obviously, now it's not only women, you know, running these restaurants, but the tradition of the bouchon is the very traditional, you know, warm, hearty dishes type of meal is still very much present in Lyon. So we'll get to try a bouchon as well for one of a meal. On the next day, on day 3, we are starting to move south. So we basically going to visit some of the key wine appellation of the Rhône following the river. So Lyon is at the very top of that map, and we're starting to move south along the river in the middle. We're going to be spending a bit of time in the Côte Rôtie and in Condrieu. Côte Rôtie is the further north. The first one we'll drive through when heading south from Lyon. And it does mean roasted slopes. So it's steep southern-facing slopes on the right bank of the Rhône, protected from northern winds. And it's the home of the Syrah. So the northern Rhône is heavy on Syrah, and the southern Rhône will be more Grenache-led. So we've got a bit of clay and a bit of sand. So the clay tends to gives a bit more bolder wines. The sandy soil a bit more aromatic example. And Condrieu, which is another slightly smaller one. So we're still at the top of that map, really. Condrieu is the largest white wine appellation in the Northern Rhône for white wine. So we're on 100% Viognier. And I mean, when we say largest, you know, we're very much on very small, you know, European size, not US size appellations. So, you know, it's still a very small size, I guess. Again, in Condrieu, we've got vineyards on narrow, steep terraces, and we do have wines that are rich, not too much acidity in this wine, but we've got a bit of tangerine, papaya, lime peel, green almond. Some of them have some notes of oak as well. And so today we're gonna try these two types of wines. So we'll go to a place called Caveau du Château, located in Puy. It belongs to the Guigal family. Today, the family owns several brands. So they have Maison Guigal, but also Vidal Fleury, which is quite famous. And we'll have a tasting of their Condrieu and Côte Rôtie wines. The brand itself was established after the Second World War by Étienne Guigal. He had worked actually for Vidal Fleury for 15 years before creating his own business, and eventually the family later purchased Vidal Fleury. So that's now part of the portfolio. At the end of our day, we'll move to Maison Pic. That will be our accommodation for a couple of nights in Valence. And it's a lovely little property. It's quite famous because it's owned by chef Anne-Sophie Pic, who is a 3 Michelin-starred chef. She's got that lovely little 5-star hotel, which is really homely. It's beautifully made. There's some quite private, secluded gardens, a lot of noble materials inside. So the idea is to have that kind of home atmosphere, slow living, gastronomy, of course, at the heart of what they do. And one of the thing I really like about the hotel is in the entrance, there's a large glass table, glass box, which is filled with the decades of Michelin guides, the old actual red book that they used to print, obviously, a lot of it. And so, yeah, decades of different books. The Pic family has had 4 generations of acclaimed chefs. So it's a bit of a note to their history, and it's also quite fun to look for your year of birth in the little table and on the side of all the books. On day 4, we'll stay based in Valence for that day as well, but we'll head north for about 20 minutes, and we're going to Hermitage. Um, Hermitage, there's kind of 2 very similar appellations. There's Crozes Hermitage, which is the larger one, and there's Hermitage, which is kind of the tiny top quality wines. So in the larger one, we have both easy drinking Syrah, but also some wines with great potential, aging potential as well. We tend to be on the 90% red, 10% white. The red is obviously made with Syrah. The white is Marsanne and Roussanne. And so we're still on very steep terraces, as you can see from the photo. Hermitage is the smaller, very special area. So we've got really fantastic age-worthy complex wines. There's also a little bit of whites, the kind of same proportion on the smaller appellation. And these wines obviously do not come cheap because of the quality of the wines, of course, but also because of the difficulty that comes with making them. No machinery, it's very steep terraces, it's hard work. All these vineyards tend to be south-facing, and there is evidence of vineyards being planted in the area since the Greek, really, so quite a long time ago. Hermitage got a little bit of a story as well, so the name's got a bit of a story that dates back to the 13th century. A crusader who came back wounded from the crusade sought refuge on the hill, built a little chapel and lived out his life there in solitude. So the hill is named Hermit's Hill, Hermitage. Today we have a tiny reconstructed chapel on there, which is called Saint Christopher, and it sits alone by the side of the hill, by the Chapoutier vineyards actually, and overlooks the village underneath. So we can see that little chapel as well during our trip. We'll visit a house called Chapoutier. The house was the estate was created in the early 19th century under a slightly different name, Maison Calvé Compagnie. It changed name a few times because there was a few partnerships, but it ended up with the name Chapoutier in the late 19th century when Marius Chapoutier got into partnership with another person called Rodolphe Delepine. So for a little while, the house was called Chapoutier and Delepine, and when Mr. Delepine retired, then Marius renamed the estate Chapoutier, which is the name we now have, and the estate has remained the same family since. So we will spend a bit of time with them. So if the weather allows it, we'll go in the vineyards. We'll see, all the steep terraces, and that will give us a good idea of, what it means to make wines there. And then we'll obviously taste the wines from the Crozes Hermitage and Hermitage. The next day we will check out and we will start driving towards Avignon. On the way, we'll stop in a medieval village called Grignan. Grignan is in the southern Drôme, and it's really a little cute, picture-perfect village on a tiny hill. We've got a lot of cobblestone streets, little shops, little cafes. And we've got beautiful views from the top of the hill as well, over the surroundings. So there we start seeing lavender fields, vineyards. It's Drôme is known in France as the land of plenty. So we've got a lot of agriculture, we've got a lot of fruit trees, olive trees, and we're really starting to feel the Provençal vibe, really. You know, we're heading towards the Mediterranean and you can start to feel that. At the top of the hill, we have the little chateau called the Chateau de Grignan. During the medieval period, it was a fortified castle, but it was then turned into a bit of a Renaissance property that we see now, actually. And it's a little bit of a famous one in France because in the 15th century, it was owned by the Adhémar family, the Lords of Grignan. And the Comte François de Grignan married the daughter of a marquise called Marguerite de Sévigné. Marguerite and her daughter, they were really, really close, and they exchanged a lot of letters. And they were later published, and Madame de Sévigné became quite famous in France for her writing style. So it's kind of a masterpiece of French literature that French children still today study at school as an example of great literature. Around Grignan, we do have wines that are produced in an appellation called Grignan-les-Adhémars. We have red, we have white, we have rosé, and we will try some of these on that day as well. So yeah, we're now in the southern Rhone. We now have that Mediterranean influence that will be felt in the climate as well, you know. So it will be longer summer, milder winters. We've got a lot less rainfall than we do in the northern Rhone. So we're kind of entering the Provence side of our trip, I guess. We'll then head to our accommodation for the night, so Auberge de Cassagne, just outside of Avignon. And so in true Provençal style, we stay in the former Bastide, which is a Provençal manor house. It was built in 1850 and restored in that kind of Provençal style. The next day, we'll head to Châteauneuf-du-Pape. So Châteauneuf-du-Pape is the home of Grenache. It sits at the bottom of the Rhone Valley. So it's very close to Provence. We actually, in terms of technical name for the region, we're not actually in Provence as per the French administration, but really the way of life is very Provençal. We fall on the Mediterranean influence and everything. So the name Châteauneuf-du-Pape means Pope's New Castle, and it refers to a time when the seat of the Roman Catholic Church was in Avignon. That was during the 14th century. We have recent records of vineyards dating back to the 12th century for that part of France, but we also know that winemaking seems to have been around for a lot longer. Châteauneuf-du-Pape was the first French wine appellation. It was created in 1936. One thing we can also mention, we talked a bit about the climate, but we have a very strong wind in that part of the world, which we call the Mistral. And it's a major player in terms of how we handle the vineyard. So the Mistral is very strong wind. It goes along the Rhone. It kind of creates a bit of a funnel where the wind gets really strong and follow the path of the river. And what you have probably seen on the photos of the slideshow is often you have the vines are individually staked, and that's the wind is the reason for it. It can create damage, so we don't really want the vines to be connected to each other, because if something happens, we don't want the entire road to disappear. In Châteauneuf, they're sometimes also a bit lower to the ground, as you can see from these photos, which again is, to help with the wind. In Châteauneuf, we've got the little gallet stone in the vineyards that you can see on the photo. That's quite key to Châteauneuf-du-Pape. It attracts the heat, reflects it at night, and this comes from a very long time ago. It comes from the glaciers that have left that on the ground. Some things we find in the wine around in that part of the world as well is the we say notes of garrigue in French, and the garrigue is the landscape of the region. So what we find in the wine is the notes of the herbs that are planted on the landscape. So we do have sometimes lavender, sage, rosemary that we can find in the wine. So in Chateauneuf, we'll visit one estate. We'll have a tour tasting and lunch there, an estate that dates back to the 19th century. It's got the interesting thing about this estate is got some really iconic label that are kind of Art Deco label on the bottle. And it's a place that produces both red and white. So we'll get to try the red, which are often blended, but Grenache led. There's also some Syrah, Cinsault, and Mourvèdre often in smaller quantities. And the white, we do have a bit of Grenache Blanc, Bourboulogne, Clairette, and Roussanne, which are again key grapes of the area. We'll also move on to another estate later during the day that is a bit different. It's a family-run estate in the Vaquera appellation, so we'll try another appellation. But what's interesting with the second one is it's also a vine nursery. So we'll get to obviously visit the winery, the winemaking facilities, but we'll also get to see the vine nursery side. They will explain how they do all the grafting and things like that. So quite interesting things to see as well. On day 7, so the next day, we'll spend the day in Avignon. So Avignon is again a city that has a really strong history. It predates the Roman Empire. Actually, there is some suggestion that it might date back to the Neolithic period, so quite far back. Avignon is famous for being the seat of the popes in the 14th century. We brushed up on that during the Châteauneuf-du-Pape part. But when the French Pope Clement V was elected in 1309, he moved the papacy to Avignon. So you do have that very stunning Pope's Palace in Avignon that can be visited. It started as something a little bit less grand than it is now, but as several popes lived in the city and decided to kind of make their mark on the building, we now have that really stunning palace left that we can visit and that we probably will visit actually. So Avignon's got a really key story that is linked to, power struggle in terms of religion, but political power struggle as well that we'll discover on that day. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. We'll go and another key element of Avignon is that little bridge that you can see on the photo. That's kind of only part bridge. It's called the Pont Saint-Bénézet, and it's better known. It's quite known in France because there is a song Sur le Pont d'Avignon, which kind of refers to that bridge. It was built in the 13th century, but ended up being slightly kind of abandoned in the 17th. The arches kept collapsing every time the Rhone flooded, so it became such a hard thing to maintain that it remained partly destroyed since. So it's kind of a part bridge, but you can now walk on the bridge, and obviously offers really good views of the cities as well. Outside of this kind of key elements of Avignon, it's a really beautiful little city. It's partly pedestrian, so it's quite easy to walk around. It's a great place for shopping. You've got obviously the mainstream shops, but you also have little artisan shops, lots of bar, restaurants, cafes. So we'll have a bit of free time to kind of explore that as well. And then we'll have our farewell dinner on that evening and departure there the next day. So yeah, that's kind of a little introduction to your Rhone to Provence itinerary.
Looks amazing. I'm so excited.
Yeah, thank you, Justine, for this portrait. I felt like I was actually already traveling there, so it's just amazing. Thank you so much. If you let me, I will just spend a few words on how to reserve if you're interested in joining this beautiful trip with Janie as a great host. And she's super funny, especially with doing travel. So just so you know. So I'm going to share what is the departure page that I'm sure Janie would be happy to share again with you. So this is the departure page where you will find all the details and day-by-day activities that Justine already walked through. So you have all the description, what is included, the accommodation you're going to stay, and all the details that you needed to know. At the bottom, you have a map where it would be outlined where you're going to go. And there's also the possibility to reserve 4 days more, kind of like an extension in Provence, and you will have also the description of the days and the itinerary in here, as well as for all the accommodations that are included in the main trip and in the extension. And on the bottom, you will have all the details and the extension, the the inclusions, what is not included, the travel insurance infos if you need, and you can reserve. You saw these bottoms on top also, so you just need to click on here, and you just need to fill up this form, and Sole, our guest service, will reach out to you to help you with your details if you need any information, and if you have any questions. So this is a little overview. I hope that you like, and I hope that you were going to join us. I let Janie say a few words to say bye to everyone, and see you soon.
Yeah, I'm super excited. You know, we've done river cruises too, and we have 100 and some odd people. What I love about these trips so much is there's 24 max, and it's the perfect amount to get into the highest quality restaurants, the highest quality wineries. Everybody gets to know each other. They really just are. I feel so lucky and so fortunate that Xperi picked us to help travel with them, and the hosts on the ground have been nothing but incredible. Another part of these trips that I really love is we will have, likely in each of the individual cities, any tours that we do will be from locals there as well. So you really get a great local knowledge. It's not just a standard tour. The people are always incredible, and so is the food and wine, for sure. But I'm really excited, and I hope you all will join us. And I'm counting. It's only 6 months away. So thank you both so much, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.